afternoon, veterans, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Master Sergeant Retired Sabrina Texera. I served for 22 and a half years. When I retired for the 103rd in East Granby. Thank you. I know, amazing, I only look 30. How did I do that, right? Compliments are welcome. Thank you very much. Love that. Whoever just said, I love that. Thank you. I am also a member of American Legion Post 84. And with that, let's get going. Siri's talking to me. I can hear Siri. On behalf of both American Legion Post 84 and veterans of Foreign Wars Post 1926, it is my honor to be the Master of Ceremonies for this 107th observance of Memorial Day from the veterans in Simsbury. Honoring deceased veterans, over 1,730 flags were placed on veteran graves in the Simsbury cemeteries by veterans just a few weeks ago. Before I officially get started, I want to personally thank everybody that made this parade possible. My partner in crime, Rose Vigdahl. She's hiding over there. She's hiding. There she is. There she is. Yep. Also to my committee members, you know who you are. Thank you also for our parade managers. Thank you for driving the golf carts. I know they weren't the easiest things to drive, but we do thank you very, very much. We also thank the town for allowing us to have this parade on this gorgeous day. I personally prayed to not have it be 80 degrees. I think the big man upstairs listened to me today. With that being said, I would like to call upon Reverend Jean Ott of the Simsbury United Methodist Church to give today's opening prayer. Reverend Ott.
Thank you.
Yep.
Would you pray with me? Gracious God, since 1868, people in this country have gathered to commemorate the fallen. Whether it was known as Decoration Day or Memorial Day, we pause at the end of May to remember those who went forth to serve and did not return. Words are offered, flags are placed, flowers are strewn, handshakes and greetings for another year are offered all around. And yet, God, we cannot commemorate or honor these brave men and women any more than their service and acts have done. And so the most important thing that we can offer is our time. Time to remember, time to pause, time to be together. And so, God, we pray that on this beautiful day, you would honor to help us celebrate these men and women, those who went forth to serve, thinking not of themselves, but of their country, those to either side. And this afternoon, we pray especially for those that they've left behind, who we remember and who we uphold. We ask all of this in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend. I would like to recognize our Grand Marshal for today's parade, World War II veteran, Terriffill native, Loring Johnson. I'd also like to recognize our local and state political leaders who've joined us today. First Selectman, Honorable Wendy Maxtutis. See, I told you I was gonna mess it up, but I tried real hard. I would also like to recognize her team, Amber, Heather, Sean, Eric, and Chris. Fellow selectmen. We also have today our Connecticut State Representative, Melissa Osborne. Okay. So today, everyone knows we are remembering the fallen. All of us veterans, very much appreciate when you thank us for our service. But please today remember that we are honoring those who could not come home. When this memorial behind me was being built, the Simsbury Fire Department donated the flagpole that you see behind me. Also, the department committed to supply the memorial with a new flag every year on Memorial Day. So at this time, I would like to ask Fire Department Representative Chris Travato to present a new flag to American Legion Post 84 Commander Len Lanza. Together, they will raise it to fly over to the Memorial Day celebration for next year. And as the flag is being raised, I'm going to invite David Moore to please honor us and honor America by singing our national anthem. For all of you who are able to, please rise. If you are not able to rise, it is okay.
Oh, Jose, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Chris and Len. Thank you, David. Please join me, everybody, giving a warm welcome to our first selectman, Wendy Maxtudis, who will say a few words.
I said it that time. Thank you, Sabrina. I think you got inside your head a little bit too much earlier. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Simsbury's 2023 Memorial Day Parade and Ceremony. As your first selectman, it's an honor to stand here in front of our Veterans Memorial and share a few words. This is one of our town's long-standing traditions that brings us all together, and it is great to see so many old and new friends lining Hot Meadow Street to join in these festivities. I want to thank everyone involved, especially our local VFW and American Legion, who are hosting us and invited our board here today. A special thanks to our Simsbury PD for their service to our community and for keeping us safe today. I also want to take a moment to recognize our elected officials who have joined us here today. And I want to say that as public servants, I know I speak for all of us when I say we have the utmost respect and admiration for all who have served our country. Today we're here to honor and pay tribute to those who gave their lives while serving our country. They made the ultimate sacrifice to protect democracy. So let's be thankful that we are here together with our friends and families on this beautiful spring day in May. We are united in this celebration, honoring those who lost their lives in service to our country. And to the families and friends they left behind, we know you live with this every day, and you have our sincere condolences and thanks. At your picnics and get-togethers later today, remember to raise a glass to all who have served, with a special nod to those that are no longer with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. I would also like to say, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our Connecticut State Representative, Melissa Osborne, who's also going to say a few words.
I'm a little taller than they are. So thank you very much, Sabrina, for the introduction. And thank you to the Simsbury VFW and the American Legion for having me and inviting me here to be with you today. It is an honor to serve Simsbury and to join you in honoring and remembering those Americans who, from the founding of our country to the present time, died fighting for freedom. Against the backdrop of vast cultural changes that we're undergoing right now as a nation, and at a divisive moment in our history, in services and ceremonies across the country today, we are coming together as a nation. And in cemeteries all across our great land, we pause to remember, to think about the meaning of the loss of our brave soldiers as people place flags and lay bouquets on quiet graves where valor proudly sleeps. As President George Bush said in 1983, Memorial Day is a time to take stock of the present, reflect on the past, and renew our commitment to the future of America. Today, there are problems that must be solved and challenges that must be met. We can tackle them with our full strength and creativity only because we are free to work them out in our own way. We owe this freedom of choice and action to those men and women in uniform who have served this nation and its interests in time of need. We are forever indebted to those who have given their lives that we might be free. To some, this is a day of remembering and mourning the loss of loved ones, but to others it may feel like no more than a Monday off of work or school. And Memorial Day ought to have meaning for those who do not share the memories, the personal memories of lost loved ones or the service of family members. And so, especially for those of us who've not experienced this personal loss, we should, in the words of John F. Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, or by extension, your state, your town, or your neighbors. What better way to give personal meaning and express honor for the sacrifices made by others for our freedoms than to give service of our own? Simsbury is a community I am so proud to represent and be a part of. A community that remembers and honors the lives dedicated to and lost to our freedoms. May God bless them and God bless America.
Thank you very much, Melissa. So I'm going to be honest. I don't even know how in the world I can really introduce our speaker for today. And I say that because I've never been in the presence of a Navy SEAL. This is very overpowering for me, but I'm gonna try. Retired Navy SEAL Captain Schweizer earned his commission from the University of California in Los Angeles and became a Navy SEAL in 1992. Over the course of his 25-year career, he served at numerous SEAL teams both on the West and East Coast, conducted 8 deployments to 16 different countries. He was the commanding officer of a SEAL Team 4 and the Commodore of Naval Special Warfare Group 3, a major Navy command. He spent over 2 years in Iraq, a year in Afghanistan, conducting hundreds of combat operations in various leadership positions. Additionally, for 2 years, he was the senior SEAL on the Navy staff at the Pentagon, wherein he was able to plan influential special operations globally. He has many, many decorations. He has 2 Legions of Merit and 4 Bronze Stars, 1 with a Combat Valor device. In 2017, he retired from the Navy and moved to Simsbury. He's a proud member of both the Town of Simsbury Police Commission, the VFW. He's married to a wonderful woman by the name of Lovely Miss Cheryl. That's what I'm going to call you, Lovely Miss Cheryl. Of Naugatuck, Connecticut. They have 2 children. They enjoy Simsbury, everything that New England has to offer. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming U.S. Navy SEAL retired Captain Travis Schweizer.
All right, good afternoon. I'm humbled to be here with all of you, and I'm actually very humbled with that over-the-top introduction, so thank you. You all look fantastic today, particularly the color guard, and what a wonderful celebration, another great town parade. I want to start by saying, though, today is a especially noteworthy day of remembrance. As the pastor noted here, Memorial Day began in the late 1860s after the Civil War. It started as Decoration Day, as many in the springtime would decorate the tombstones of the fallen soldiers with flowers. They'd recite prayers and reflect and pay homage. Following World War I, though, Congress recognized the need to commemorate American troops that had been lost overseas as well. Therefore, in 1923, the American Battle Monuments Commission was established. And basically, they were an agency that was responsible for constructing monuments globally to honor our fallen American expeditionary troops. In short, though, their function was to maintain the honor and memory of those that were fallen. So this year marks the 100th anniversary that the ABMC has been in existence, and its inception really marks the change from Decoration Day to Memorial Day, in that we've expanded the service to remember fallen servicemen and women who have died in all wars. A past American Legion commander stated it well: their task is done, ours is now before us. And so that being said, our purpose here today is clear. We pay tribute, we give thanks, and remember those servicemen and women that have paid the ultimate price, from the Continental Army at Valley Forge in the Revolutionary War, to the Union Army at Gettysburg in the Civil War, from the beaches of Normandy in World War II, to the beaches of Incheon in Korea, the jungles of Vietnam, the sands of Iraq, and the mountains and airstrips of Afghanistan, and many others. And I think we all know that the general stats. I think in the last 250 years, we've lost maybe 750,000 troops or so. And that includes 10,000 from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I think these numbers, on one hand, they're both staggering, but on the other hand, We just go about our daily lives because that's what we should do. We get caught up in the daily business of our lives. So what I'd like to do today is I want to bring our remembrance, I want to bring it local, and I want to relay a local story that's about one of Simsbury's own, Bob Skeels. And Bob, I lost track of you. Are you still here? Did you move on? Okay, that's all right. So this story is about Bob, but really I'm talking about his fellow servicemen that didn't make it back. As a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, Bob was a tank officer, and immediately upon arrival in Vietnam in 1968, just like that, Bob was switched from a tank officer to an infantry officer. And that was really an epic welcome to Vietnam, Bob. What a nice day. The following I'm going to give you are excerpts from an article that just came out in Leatherneck magazine, an article that celebrates the Marine, or a magazine that celebrates the Marine Corps. So here we go. Bob and his platoon spent the next several months patrolling the jungles of Vietnam. Life was hard, to say the least. Bob and his Marines engaged daily in battle with the jungle. Rats 3 times the size of those stateside moved in from every corner of the country to follow the Marines. Heat and humidity left the Marines constantly wet. Everyone developed jungle rot. Leeches sucked the life out of the men. Bob developed his morning routine, which included a full-body sweep and removal of leeches with a flame or salt, sometimes up to 30 leeches at a time. Word came down. A hastily planned operation was to be executed. The objective was a well-known and well-fought-over terrain feature immediately south of the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone, known as Mutter's Ridge. Out of the 6 participating battalions, Bob's platoon drew the lucky straw, and they had the task of pushing across Mutter's Ridge, leading the operation. The main objective was a ridge named Objective Bravo, and it was the highest hill on Mutter's Ridge. And when Bravo came into view, Bob saw there wasn't 1, but 3 distinct different hilltops rising into the twilight. Storming a single enemy-occupied hill would be difficult. Tackling 3 such hills seemed nearly impossible. In the dark, it was surely suicidal. At early dawn, Bob and his men moved out, and not long afterward, Bob got the call from one of his scout squads. "We've walked into something. It's a hornet's nest." Another Marine shouted, "They're flanking us." Meanwhile, the North Vietnamese army raked the Marines' position with gunfire as they advanced. When the battle opened up less than 200 meters down the hill, Bob ordered his remaining 2 squads to saddle up. Automatic fire raked the ridge line as Bob explained the situation via radio to his company commander. Leaves and limbs rained down on the men from the branches above. As the battle raged, Bob got the horrible news from one of his men. "Lieutenant Skeels, we've got 2 men missing." Bob witnessed at least 20 uniformed enemy soldiers 400 meters away moving on their position, and they were safely perched on a hilltop, spraying gunfire into the valley. More Marines fell wounded as the platoon advanced. The man next to Bob was shot in the chest. Bob rolled him over and saw a large exit wound. Bob moved the Marine back uphill toward the abandoned bunkers where a casualty point formed. Bob fought to keep his bearing as his heart sunk into the pit of his stomach. His radio men approached. Fixed-wing aircraft held station overhead, ready to pummel the valley floor. Bob still hadn't located the scout squad. Now, with 2 Marines missing somewhere in the area, he couldn't risk having the jets drop bombs. He called the aircraft off and formed up his remaining Marines to move out and search for the missing men. 2 men stepped forward, Lieutenant Corporal John Higgins and Private First Class Paul Daines. They volunteered to go conduct a search. The battle raged on all night, and Bob and his men hunkered down. The sun rose quietly over Mutter's Ridge on December 9th. Bob moved out with his diminished platoon at first light. The enemy had completely abandoned the valley, retreating to their stronghold on the other side of Objective Bravo. Bob's platoon located the Marines spotted from the air the day prior. Private First Class Charles Hall was no longer missing, but now the platoon's first confirmed KIA, or killed in action. Now Hall lay the lifeless body of Private First Class Daines. Similarly, he was cut down by sniper's bullet. They proceeded on toward the trench where the scout squad made the first contact. A later recount revealed 52 enemy bunkers constructed beyond the trench line. Lying next to one of these bunkers, the Marines found the body of Lance Corporal Higgins. 12 other Marines were killed and the 31 wounded, taking the objectives. Over 170 enemy bunkers were counted there, stuffed with ammo, weapons, and supplies. Break. All right, I relay the story, and it's hard for any of us to even comprehend the intensity of the battle and the environment that was going on there. And just reading it, I think of Danes and Higgins in the crucible, in the heat of the battle, volunteering to venture out into the darkness for their lost comrades. And I think of Skeels trying to keep his crew alive in such a hectic situation. They rose to the challenge. Now, Bob's story isn't one of, it's one of many stories. There's thousands of them across the country and in this town that are about courage and sacrifice. And each and every one of us knows a family member, a friend, a neighbor, someone who has paid the ultimate price for our country. So my message today is we're all in this together. There's a void that's been left by those patriots that didn't return home, and it still reverberates with us today. So we fought and died in wars. Hey, Captain Schweizer, what's the big deal? What's the significance of all this? Despite our imperfections, the United States is still a beacon of freedom, and it's a guiding light for the entire world. Our Constitution, our way of life, our Declaration of Independence stating that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it all still rings true. It's still worth fighting for. Parades in places like Simsbury are important. If I can, I'd like y'all just to join me in a moment of silence for those that have fallen in our wars. Thank you. I want to conclude with a quote from Abraham Lincoln. Any nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure. So true to Lincoln's words, today we remember those in our cemeteries whose graves are marked with flags. We also remember those entombed in sunken military vessels, those buried at sea, those missing and not yet found, and those buried in the 26 American burial grounds located in 17 countries on 5 different continents. To their memories, we say, we haven't forgotten you. We remember you. Thank you all for having me here today, and God bless America.
Thank you very much, sir. I don't know how anyone follows that. That was a joke. At this time, we are going to have reading of names. Those names on the memorial we have behind me. We have Simsbury servicemen who lost their lives in active duty during times of conflict. And in keeping with the meaning of Memorial Day, which is to honor those who made that ultimate sacrifice for our freedom, we will have 3 individuals come up to read the 98 names that are on these columns behind me. In addition, as this marks the 79th anniversary of D-Day, it is appropriate that we honor these veterans who gave their lives in the wars in Vietnam and Iraq and whose names are on these columns. For those who are not aware, several years ago, Boy Scouts of Troop 76 researched and created a large notebook containing biographical information on what they could find of all 98 names behind me. Copies of this book can be found at the Simsbury Historical Society, the Simsbury Free Library, and at the Simsbury VFW. I now call upon veterans Len Lanza, Bruce Elliott, and John Fox to read the 98 names that are on these columns. And immediately following that, we will have Scouts Patrick Heidick and Amelia Hozak from Troop 76 that will read bios of 2 fallen veterans.
Listed on the columns, the granite columns behind me, are the names of 98 former residents of Simsbury who were living in town when they entered military service. All 98 died while in service to their country. I shall begin the reading with the names of those who died during the Revolutionary War. Many of the names are very familiar Simsbury names, including 5 from one family. The names as being read are listed in order of death. Elijah Phelps, Carmi Higley, Thomas Holcomb, John Brown, Daniel Moses, Jonathan Pettibone, Samuel Pettibone, Jesse Cosette, Seth Case, Joseph Cornish, Oliver Humphrey, Richard Humphrey, Jehiel Bidwell, Erastus Humphrey, Roger Cosette, Thomas Wright, Elihu Humphrey, Jonathan Butoff, Uriah Pease, Josiah Clark, Benjamin Brewer, John Garrett, Josiah Higley, Daniel Barber, Chedidish Holcomb, Zachariah Prince, Lemuel Colton, John Fletcher, Abel Forward, Dudley Hayes, George Merrill, and Joseph Moore.
I am reading the names of those who died, residents of Simsbury that died in the Civil War, that can be located on panel 2 of the memorial. The names are Talbridge Prindle, Elisha Cleveland, Dwayne Brown, Edward Gorman, Joseph Toy, John Kilborn, Lucius Holcomb, Oliver Case, James Gergen, Orville Wilson, Miles Shepard, Thomas Talmadge, Samuel Taylor, Lucius Marks, Edward Prindle, Leroy Tuller, Walton Goddard, Jose Case, Charles Tenchilin, George Shepard, John Jones, Curtis Bacon, Orlando Bridgman, John Meal, Robert Ballantyne, James Wells, Richard Sizer, Thomas Andrus, Christopher Johnson, Felix Main, Charles Hudson, William Johnson, Albert Can, William Mahar, William Jackson, James McKinney, Gustav Staubert Belt.
I'm beginning with the names from World War I. Joseph Tomalonis Jr., Jeremiah Leahy, David Galloway, Frederick Weed, George Hall, and from World War II, Joe Dombrowski, Merwin Chagnon, Harrison Potoski, Frank Strider, Clifton Burno, Silvio Salvatore, Carlton Sawyer, Amy Voiland, Gordon Tetrault, Robert Condon, Leon Hoppy, Arthur Scanocchia, David Spatcher, Russell Cable, John Stevenson, Isidore Zarnowski, and Roland Levine. From the Korean War, Leon Morand, Howard Higley. And the Vietnam War, William Markarian, Richard Keithline, Arthur Smith, and from the Global War on Terror, Felix Del Greco.
Second Lieutenant John C. Kuprick was born on July 19, 1921, to Lawrence and Marcella Kuprick, and was a veteran of World War II. His hometown was here in Simsbury, Connecticut. He enlisted for the U.S. Army Air Forces on September 5, 1942, and became a member of the 57th Squadron, 375th Troop Carrier Group. During his time serving, he achieved the rank of second lieutenant. He was tragically killed on September 9, 1945, in the line of duty of a non-battle related incident during the war. He is buried in Manila American Cemetery at Fort Bonifacio, Manila, and is memorialized at St. Bernard Cemetery in Terriffville, Connecticut.
First Lieutenant Richard W. Keithline from Simsbury, Connecticut, was born June 30th, 1947. Lieutenant Keithline, known to his close friends as Keith, was a first lieutenant in C Company 4th Battalion, 3rd Infantry, BDE, Americal Division in the United States Army Reserves, and served in the Vietnam War from 1967 until the time of his death in 1969. He died while serving as a platoon leader in the Vietnam War in the province of Quang Ngai in South Vietnam on February 28, 1969, at the age of 21. He was awarded the Silver Star for his gallant and intrepid actions at the time of his death. On that date, the company was conducting a reconnaissance mission near the village of Duan Pha when it came under heavy enemy automatic weapons fire from the village. Lieutenant Keithline exposed himself to the barrage as he organized and led his platoon in an assault on a well-entrenched hostile force. He shouted words of encouragement during the assault, which gave his men the confidence to continue to attack. As the platoon moved near the hostile positions, Lieutenant Keithline was mortally wounded. His timely and courageous actions were an inspiration to his men and enabled them to rout the enemy force. Lieutenant Keithline's personal heroism, professionalism, competence, and devotion to duty were in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflected great credit upon himself, the Americal Division, and the United States Army. The Simsbury Board of Selectmen honored Lieutenant Keithline for his service with an official expression of condolences presented to his family on April 24, 1969. Lieutenant Keithline had previously been awarded the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart. He is memorialized on panel W31, line 94 in the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall in Washington, D.C. He was survived by his parents, William and Dolores Keithline, and buried in St. Bernard Cemetery in Terriffill, Connecticut.
Thank you, everybody. At this time, I would like to call upon Rose Figdal to place the wreath on the Veterans Memorial. Thank you, Rose. I now call upon the Talcott Mountain Highlanders to perform Amazing Grace. Thank you. In 1868, rifles were shot in the air as a salute to soldiers who had given their lives to keep the United States together. I must advise to all, this is a powerful part of the program. The rifle squad will salute the dead, and this will be followed by taps and the echo, played by Eli Bylund and Skylar Babinski. All veterans, you are welcome to salute the colors, whether you are wearing a cap or not. Commander of the rifle squad, please salute the dead. Veterans, hand salute. You may be seated. I want to personally thank everybody for staying with us for so long. I know this is a longer ceremony, but it does mean a lot. At the conclusion of today's proceeding, the high school band, under direction of Lisa Abel, will present a medley of songs. The Masons are going to be serving ice cream on the library lawn behind you. They contributed to the success of this Memorial Day observation, and we want to acknowledge them. We also want to acknowledge Simsbury Local Television. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Thank you to everyone that participated in this parade. After the color guard has retired the colors, that will be the final conclusion of today. Again, thank you very much for attending this Memorial Day parade and ceremony. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day. Color guard at this time, please retire the colors. Thank you again, everybody, for coming. This officially concludes today's ceremony.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.